Hey, I want to introduce a client, Caleb Box. Got to know Caleb through a referral, and Caleb, thanks for joining me today and be willing to record this. Would you just tell everybody who you are and what your life's about?
Absolutely. My name's Caleb Box. I am a father of four. I've been married for this November 25 years. I've been an entrepreneur, I guess you could say, since around 2015. Obviously, I've been in the workforce for much longer than that, but my my place holding in life kind of changed and pivoted then. So I've owner of a few businesses, a few startups, and in the service industry, car wash related, and kind of knee deep. Have a few partners, and got referred to Carl from a few of my friends, and the rest is kind of history.
Well, you say the history, but one of the things that I realized is this course, this 9-week course. Um, it's not a fire hose down your throat. It's what do they call it? Drinking from a fire hose. After listening to some of the feedback, it's like three fire hoses. One in each nostril and one in your mouth.
Mhm.
What? Now, you probably didn't know you were in for that much, but I will ask you, what was it? What was it that what possessed you to want to go through this authentic you program?
Well, it's actually much more than that because it's three fire hoses sitting there, and you have to actively pick it up and shove it down your own throat.
Huh,
Which makes it a little bit more challenging
huh.
because you ultimately understand kind of once you're in it, that this is a lot more than I anticipated. But if I stick with it when I come out of it, it's gonna be well worth whatever challenges that I face going through it.
Well, I want to I want to go a little deeper with that, but before I do, um, what was it that actually compelled you to get in this program? What was going on in your life that made you want to spend all this time and effort and dollars for that matter to be in this thing? What was going on?
Well, that's one thing that's really kind of interesting because I didn't feel that there was that much that necessarily needed like urgent care. So once, I'm moderately successful in business. I think I've done decently well. So you could probably look at me and say, what else does this guy need? And I knew I needed some things because I've tried to be self-reflective over the past few years and grow and see shortcomings in my life and try to work on that as much as you possibly can. So once I got in it, it was like, okay, there's this is a little bit deeper than what I had than I initially thought it would be. And after about probably that first week, it was like, okay, this is pretty good, but you know, you really have to invest time, effort, and energy in yourself to really get the most out of it. Because you could ultimately, it could be just kind of this surface level event if you allowed it to be that. But kind of reassessing after week one and like, okay, this could be hugely beneficial. Recognizing things that
Hmm.
needed maybe a tune up, or some more in depth spotlight to be shown down on, and realizing, okay, if I, you know, put some effort in this, I think I can reap some rewards.
Caleb, I want to push on that just a little bit. Tell me what happened in that first week. I don't consider any of the material like this, kind
Mhm.
of.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
tell me more.
yeah, it was really more of this is not that you've ever stated you're a psychiatrist or claim to be.
Uh-huh.
There there were a lot of so going into it, I thought it was gonna be more business with some personal. but once I got into it, it was just like the business and personal is so much more interconnected than I had really imagined. I had really kind of looked at it as segmented. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, and I'm at home. Don't bring work home. Don't bring home to work. But I think kind of setting through that first lesson, and it was talking about, I mean, who are you? Who is your person? What is your purpose? I mean, these were all like questions that I thought I had answered, but once you kind of got down into the full definition of kind of who are you and where are you going and what are you trying to achieve, I realized that I I had maybe answered them at the surface level, but I hadn't really kind of dug down into making that really a core belief and a core value.
Wow, you're getting into something that that I believe deeply. Um, just for anybody who's interested or wondering what this is, my whole thought, and be interesting to hear you talk to this, Caleb, is if you have to be a different person at work and a different person as a husband and yet another person as a father, um, you're probably spending too much energy in being different people. My thought is, if the principles that we cover in this course don't apply personally, professionally, relationally, at work with your wife and with your kids, fire me. It's BS. How would you speak to that?
Well, it's exhausting. It's exhausting
What
because
the part that I'm talking about, or
no,
the
no, 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 no. The kind of, I don't say living two lives because it makes it looks like you're a kind of a split personality. But if you are I don't want to say a serial entrepreneur, but if you're constantly trying to build, um, and when you get home, you're in constant build mode. When there's, I don't say nothing, there's nothing necessarily to build, but just exist in a cohesive environment, it can be very, very taxing on your family. So kind of realizing that my aggressive, high um, intensity personality might work to some extent in the workplace. Um, but at home, being able to turn it off is not always that easy. So yeah, it was exhausting and problematic for sure.
Can you talk to that just a little bit more, about the problematic bringing that aggressiveness home? What can you go into that a little bit more, and what's different now, as the leader you are in business and the husband and father you are? What got bridged there?
Well, I mean, obviously some challenges because I've got a few older kids. Daughter that's 20, son that's 18, and they had made multiple statements that we're not your employee. We're not your employee. And some of the times I respond is like, "You're correct," because my employees listen, and when I ask them to do something, they normally do it. So there was a lot of friction. Not bad. It wasn't like the family was on the verge of collapse or anything, but there were definitely some challenges with how we interacted. It wasn't as healthy as it needed to be from an interaction. Is I would come home and I would still be boss or still be owner instead of dad, and that realization is a little bit trying whenever you actually open yourself up to, okay, this is not healthy for them or for me.
I'm just listening to you, Caleb. I'm remembering that no one told me, or at least it didn't stick, it didn't register, that from the time your kids are 12, 13 years old, somewhere in that, and when they're transitioning into into those teenage years, that's the marker that you're on the 5-year countdown for them to become legal adults.
Mhm.
Whether we like it or not, whether our kids are prepared or not, I like to say this to my kids and to the others: by the power of the United States of America, our children are legal adults. They don't need us anymore. That they may need our financial support, they may need a roof over their heads, but they're free by the powers of our own government. And I believe that's pretty consistent around the globe. Somewhere around 18, teenagers are deemed adults, and they have that same freedom. I didn't know that I needed to make a transition from authority figure to one of coach. But can you speak to that at all?
Yes, the relationship that I have with my kids was, and obviously the wife as well, was a little bit challenging because of um, that performance-based expectation of, because when we look at employees, a lot of times we look at, what is their ROI? What is their output versus my financial input into them? Is it a um, worthy balanced agreement? And a lot of times when you look at kids that way and family that way, it creates a challenge because you're always looking for a some sort of output in relation to. So it's a performance. So whenever you're going into it as a quote unquote business owner, you're looking at your family as what is the output that they're giving to the family, instead of it being like, hey, we're this is a family, this is a team, we're just going to be problems, and dealing with them basically as an employee is like, I'll write you up, that kind of mindset. So it's definitely not healthy. It's definitely um n- it's a challenge because it creates a friction to where they start looking at you as you're not a dad, you're just a boss. And if I walk in and there's dishes, then there's going to be a reprimand. Um, so yeah, there was some definitely unhealthy relationships going on.
Uh, can you tell me if how this has changed, if anything, about your leadership at work?
Leadership at work has definitely changed. I would, and one of the things that we talked about at a high level was empathy while maintaining a standard. And that's where I found myself, is I would be highly, highly empathetic without a standard. And then I would reach a point where good Caleb would die, and it would be standard without empathy. So it would swing from a almost to a tyrannical type management style, to where it's just like anything goes because I'm a nice person. And then it would go to the point of be like, okay, enough's enough, you're fired. And there was never um, a balance to be like, okay, here's where we need to be, here's where you're at. Um, this isn't working, but we're going to kind of go through some training to make sure that you understand what the standard is. And that's, I thought I was doing well, because successful, whatever you want to say. But at the end, it wasn't as efficient and effective a leader as I should have been and could have been.
Well put. And I've seen this with many, many leaders, Caleb. You're certainly not the only one. I call it the pendicular behavior, that idea of empathy, no standards, and then that pendulum swings right on to the opposite side of standards, no empathy. It's almost like a Jekyll Hyde type um, behavior, as opposed to something really well grounded and centered, you might say.
Yes.
Tell me, we could talk about that a lot more. Uh, was there anything that really surprised you going through this 9-week program?
I think the thing that surprised me was the um, was really more the personal introspective. I knew that there would be some, but obviously, all of my dealings with friends that have worked with you, it's all been mostly centered on business. So I was kind of going into it, and you and I had conversations, like one or two conversations before that event, that 9 weeks. Um, and I thought it was going to be more of, hey, business practices, best practices with business, how to interact, how to improve as a leader. Um, and it really turned into more of a, you're improving as a person, and that person learns how to more effectively. I'm not going to say fully effective because it's 9 weeks, and uh, deprogramming of 46 years of bad practices is not going to be fixed in 9 weeks, but it creates I would say, cliche, maybe an awakening to the importance of growth as a person, which then in turn relates to how you interact with your employees and how you interact as a husband and a father. So
Hmm.
that was really kind of the most surprising thing. I thought it was going to be one thing, and it was so encompassing that it could have easily been probably a 18-week program.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. What would you say would be your greatest satisfaction of those 9 weeks?
Um, I would say um, because I had always thought that I was kind of introspective on identifying weaknesses and challenges and trying to address them, but I feel like that it's gone. Um, I guess my introspective before was, okay, there's a problem, fix the problem, instead of there's there's some core beliefs that need to be edited and working towards a sensible, long-term, sustainable introspection into growth. And to kind of detail that a little bit more is I thought I was a good husband, I thought I was a good father, but realizing how I interacted, I thought I was a good businessman. As I interacted with people, it's like, okay, there is a there's a not to say a better way, but there's an improved way. There's an improved way. I mean, because we're going on 25 years, I've done some things right to be married for 25 years.
Sure have.
So I can't sit here and say that, I was this piece of garbage or anything like that. But it's like to be truly effective, it's understanding who you really are
Hmm.
and growing inside of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the hardest thing is being able to look in the mirror and say, who am I really as a husband and father and as a businessman? So if you can do that, that's a phenomenal starting point that you can make unbelievable strides with.
I commend you, my friend, for how you moved from I am the problem fixer, which, let's face it, if you can fix problems, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
Uh, but it seems like when I brought that mindset home, my wife and my kids felt like they were problems that needed to be fixed. Didn't work well with me. Just listening to you also made me flash back. My wife and I went through this marriage um, training when we were married for about a year and a half. And one of the questions was, would you graph how happy that you've been in the time you met to today? And my graph went from like an 8 when I met her to a 10 when we married. And then the honeymoon was starting to wear off at a year and a half. And so I went down to about a 9. I was still really, really happy in our marriage. And I also had well, I think I'll just put a pretty big ego, and was thinking pretty highly of myself. So I was pretty excited to see what Gina was going to score being married to me. I thought she'd be certainly a 9 or a 10. And I can still remember looking over, and her graph was just like mine. It was about an 8 when we met, and our wedding day, she was at a 10. And then it wasn't like mine because it went down fast, and it flatlined at 2. And Caleb, I had no idea. I thought, I mean, I knew we had arguments and fights, but we always kissed and made up, and that was kind of fun. No, let's take kind of out. That was fun. It was almost worth having arguments just to kiss and make up. Gina wasn't seeing it that way. Anyway, so when I hear you talking about fixing problems, that's oh my gosh, it doesn't work too good at the home front.
Does it?
Did I ask this? What's your greatest satisfaction as a result of the program?
The greatest satisfaction, obviously, I feel like that I am. It feels more purposeful dealing, working day in day out with employees. Obviously, some challenges because there's just challenges, but that's obviously one of the main things. But looking back on how I interacted with my family, my kids, and how we interact now, it's really quite amazing, um, how we talk, how we converse. We're having, some plays baseball, and we're having some just high level conversations. Before, if it was like, he's a catcher, and it's like, okay, a pass ball in a high stress situation. Before it'd be like, hey, what happened? What's going on? How'd you let that go? You need to block that better. Da, da, da. And I found myself, when we got home the other night, kind of coaching, look, listen, I'm not even going to talk about your play. What were you thinking when that happened? What was going on in your mind? And because I could literally see him mentally collapsing out on the field, and it was not dad coming in and why did you screw up, and why. It's like, hey, let's talk through kind of your mindset, and because we need to just kind of have a conversation on how you're thinking about yourself in that situation. So the interaction, the more empathetic, versus coming in as an employee, you did not perform at a high level, and kind of that reprimanding, you need to be better, you're better than this, da, da, da. It's really kind of more of, and I'm finding him opening up, hey, can you come in here, and I need to talk to you about something. So the
Wow.
conversation seems to be, and this same thing is going on with not just him, my daughter life as well, where the conversations um are more introspective, both of us, and it's not just transactionary.
Hmm.
It's like, I need, can you this? It's, hey, let's talk. I'm having some issues, and I need some advice. I need some insight. So it's really kind of changed the whole dynamic from tyrannical boss getting home to a, dare I say, a father.
Wow.
So
That's quite a statement, my friend. That's quite a statement. Um, I don't even know if it's fair to ask this. I'm going to ask it, and you can say no, it doesn't. Don't. Conservatively speaking, what kind of ROI have you seen on this investment, currently and long term?
so whenever I hear the term ROI, I'm immediately, um, I immediately go to financial. What is the financial ROI within a business? Um, and there's probably um, a positive ROI that I could probably, um, quantify. from a business standpoint, but it is super early in that. But from a personal ROI, I honestly do not believe that I can quantify that because the graph would look unrealistic.
Hmm. Wow. How would, so an unrealistic graph, go ahead, describe that.
I would say, I mean, from an engagement standpoint, um, I mean, I don't know how you put an ROI on before. Um, Anytime my daughter would leave the house, I would witness my daughter hugging my wife, telling her bye, and turning around and walking off. To a She makes a concerted effort to find me wherever I'm at in the house and hug me, tell me she loves me, and before she leaves. So how what is the ROI on that? That's why I'm saying I can't quantify that.
And just for the viewers info, uh, I've got a few decades on Caleb here, so consequently my kids are older, and I've got um, I have 3 grandkids, and just we learned 2 weeks ago that number 4 is going to be coming this year. And yeah, what do you pay? What's it worth when your adult children want you in their lives? They want you in their children's lives. We've been invited to all 4 of the births um, of our kids. With the fourth one is the standing invitation. Um, my wife Gina has been invited into the birth room. I prefer to stay out until the baby comes and bodies are covered back up. But what a rich thing that is, and you're going to be having that, Caleb. You're going to be having that. One of the things that, and I just want to brag on you a little bit. Every time I talk to you, I'm thinking, my gosh, what else is this guy capable of? As I've watched you change, as I've watched you become more kind to yourself, and dare I say, come more alive to life. It's remarkable to watch, and to think of who you're becoming as a leader, as a husband, as a father. It's just cool to watch. I commend you. I commend you. Anything else you'd like to say, Caleb?
I don't think so. I mean, it's been a phenomenal journey. Number one, getting to know you as a person, but also the great care that and links that you go to offer. And that's one of those things that's been really cool, kind of working with you and kind of having some sessions with you is you've never thrown anything down anybody's throat, or at least mine. It's always been like, where are you? What do we need? What do you need? What do we need to talk about? What's there? And even those 9 weeks, it was like, hey, this is the food that's prepared. Eat if you like. And that was really refreshing, coming out of some ministry opportunities and stuff, and having stuff, rammed down your throat for various reasons. Take it because I said so. And it created a really unique um, learning opportunity. So, thank you.
You are so welcome. You certainly took that opportunity, or those opportunities, Caleb, and you just ran, my friend. That was serious, and I'm watching you. You're running a remarkable race. Thank you, Caleb. Thanks for taking the time for this recording.
Thank you.